Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio. If you're looking for a great gift for the Indiana sports fan in your life, just go to isbradio.itemorder.com and you'll find plenty of options, including sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, pullovers, caps, and much more, including our Welcome to the SIG 10 line that benefits the local Boys and Girls Club. That's isbradio.itemorder.com. isbradio.itemorder.com. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Joined now by the man himself, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Mr. Bozich, how are you doing, sir?
You know, I'll be honest, I'm a little tired today. I had a late game last night. Louisville played the 9 o'clock game against Ole Miss. So I'm
how'd that go for the Cardinals?
You really don't know?
Yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm being facetious, but I had it backwards earlier. I just looked at the score real quick, and I thought Louisville had that big win, and then I'm like, whoa! And I was talking with Todd Leary about it, and I'm like, oh wait! I'm like, oh my God, Louisville got crushed by a good team. I mean, we just saw Ole Miss and Chris Beard take Purdue to the mat and barely lost that game. It's no secret what's going on in Oxford. Chris Beard came into Oxford and took over a year ago a 13-22 team. They start 15-0 on that season, and he's got them ranked already. Hell of a job going on down there.
Yeah, you know what? The two stats that were most impressive, and that's in context of watching what Indiana did against Louisville, is one, Ole Miss had 8 turnovers the whole game. They only had 3 about 5 or 6 minutes into the second half, and Louisville shot 33s and made 5. So Ole Miss took care of the ball and defended, and they won. They could have won by 30. They won by, I think it was 25. And it's not like if you look at them, you say that dude's an NBA guy or that dude's a lottery pick. I mean, they got good players. They don't have any great players, but they played about 8 or 9 guys. They play really hard on defense, and they don't take stupid shots. And it was impressive.
Little Rhodey undefeated. I'll have to look into that. Have they
He was
played
7-0 the last time I checked. It might be 8 by now. He beat Chris Mack by 30.
Wow, where is Chris Mack now?
He's at Charleston, the job that Pat Kelsey left to come here.
Yeah, well, maybe things can go for him from
there. And the other thing was in the post-game press conference, Chris Beard, he's got an Ole Miss shirt on, but on I think in the right side of his shirt, it has Bob Knight's autograph.
Todd Leary was talking about that earlier. It's a name that you might want to familiarize yourself with. Just saying. Indiana fans, that along with Bruce Pearl, I don't know 2 other names that if something were to happen, if Indiana's season did not go as planned and it got to the point to where that would be there, to me, there's no doubt that there are 2 names that would quickly rise to the top. Now, Chris Beard, I don't know just because, but boy, he would be my first choice for a coach. I don't care where you are. He's proven to be a winner. Former Knight assistant, you just hit the nail on the head. They took care of the ball and they defended. Well, that sounds like a team that a lot of people should be familiar with how they used to play. But congratulations on that. Indiana gets a big win over Sam Houston, but it was more important to have Luke Goode have a night that he had, and a career night, no less. But it also showed a different side of the potential that Indiana has offensively if they are allowed to play that way.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the game on Eric Crawford's iPad because we were in the press area at the Louisville game, and a couple things jumped out at me. One, it was good to see Anthony Leal get a chance to play. And I went back and read the post-game interviews. I thought Mike Woodson's response to when he was asked twice about why Anthony Leal played was weird. He said, like, just because I decided to play him or something. He didn't give any other reason. And then it appeared that they played better, faster, more effectively when they didn't have two bigs on the floor. It was weird. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. But when Todd was on earlier, I would love to see Mackenzie Mbako and Luke Goode on the floor at the same time.
Right.
And you figure out what to do with Ballo and Renew.
Yeah, I don't think they fit well together. I mean, not for long stretches, maybe for brief stretches, but I don't think they fit well together. And the plus and minus stats can sometimes be misleading, but Anthony Leal had a plus and minus of plus 29 and like played less than half the game. I mean, that was pretty remarkable.
No, I'm sorry. It's not. Is that him? I will get off of here. I got something blocking it. No, it wasn't plus 29, Rick. It was plus 39.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Plus 39.
And Bryson Tucker, plus 31.
I like
both
Bryson
guys
Tucker
off of the bench. Luke Goode, plus 23. 3 bench players.
Well, at the end of the Louisville beatdown, when he put the subs in, those guys played harder than the starters played. I thought. I mean, I didn't think the starters played hard in either of the first 2 games. I thought they were flat-footed. I thought they were disinterested. I thought they weren't competitive. I mean, I didn't think they gave great effort at all in those first 2 games.
And when that is the case, I don't always first look at the players, although a lot of people just think, oh, it's just the players being lazy. I wonder sometimes if there's just not a belief in what you're doing. If you don't believe in what you're doing, it's hard to put that 100% out there. It's just human nature. It's just hard because if you don't believe in it, you've got that pull. It's pulling on you.
And we've talked about this before, but what makes it even more striking is when you don't see that from the football team. Their attention to detail and they didn't have one letdown the whole season. Most football teams have a game where they have a letdown and they don't play their best and they kind of underachieve or get upset or don't beat the spread or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't say the football team played that way all year. The old Michigan game was the only game they didn't cover the spread other than Ohio State, and Ohio State was just better. But every other game that they were supposed to win, they not only won, they won convincingly. And those first 2 games in the Bahamas, I was kind of dumbfounded at the lack of competitiveness by the basketball team.
Yeah, that's what makes you. That's the worst thing. Losing is one thing, but if you go down swinging, if you go down fighting and scratching,
right.
That's people see that and they accept it. But when you don't have that heart, that's what it really leaves a brand on people's brains. And it's too early in the season to get into beating on the dead horse, but I don't think that we're really going to have to worry about that because this Big Ten, Rick, it may not have 3 out of the top 4 teams like the SEC currently does, but they're half deep in teams that can and probably will fight for being in the top 4 of the conference. There's a lot of teams that are good basketball programs this season.
There's not a lot of separation there. I mean, I guess is Purdue the highest ranked team in the rankings? I guess they are in the computer rankings. I would think they are. And I mean,
Oregon right behind them, I believe.
Oregon, I forgot. Oregon's really good. They're 7 or 8-0. I keep forgetting about Oregon.
It's too many to keep remembering of. There's like 8 or 9 that are decent teams.
Ohio State's good. Michigan's good. Wisconsin's good.
Michigan, a big win last night by Michigan on the road at Wisconsin, who is also good.
Right. Penn State's good. Maryland's good. If you don't if you bring that kind of effort into the Big Ten, you will not win. I guess Minnesota is the weakest team, considered the weakest team, and that's who Indiana opens against in the Big Ten, correct? And then they go to Nebraska. Next week, it's Minnesota on Monday and then Nebraska on Friday, I believe. So we'll see.
Let's see. We'll wait to talk about that in the next segment when we get to some football. But Indiana has another game before they will pick up Big Ten play.
Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, Miami of Ohio coming in, and the Big Ten play starts on Monday for back-to-back games, and then they'll travel to Lincoln to take on Nebraska. But it's here, man, and they're going to have to get ready. And I know that fans are kind of done listening to. They're over of well, we got to get better at this and we got to get better at that. Come on, man. It's the fourth season. What do you mean you got to get your team better at this and that? And you just mentioned the football team. It's about being attention to detail. It's about doing the things correctly and doing them correctly day in, day out, time in, time out. And if you do that, good things are going to happen.
Well, I mean, I heard what he said after some of the Bahamas games about got some new players and all. I mean, Louisville had all new players. Every player was new, right? I mean, most
13, teams, all 13.
Most teams have in the transfer portal era. Most teams have 6 to 8 new players. Duke has all new players. I mean, that's just the way it is. You don't get a time to build towards next season. It doesn't work that way anymore. You've got to be ready to go every year and have the guys, understand that. And I don't know. That was just and let's be honest, the reason that I think there's so much unrest is that it's the very same kind of performance we saw last year in the last game of the year against Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament. It's the same kind of beatdown we saw against Auburn and UConn last year. It's the same kind of beatdown from the St. Mary's game in the NCAA tournament or against Arizona or Kansas the year before. I mean, there's too many of these games where they're just not competitive.
And not only that, Rick, just harken back to last year, you only have so many opportunities to get your quality out of conference wins. Well, that ship has sailed now for Indiana. It's over. Now, that means what you did not do in pre-conference, you have to do a little bit more in conference.
Right.
Wrong season, wrong conference to have to do more in this year, because this is, like I said, a very deep conference, and that's going to be a hell of a challenge.
Well, I've read the comments from his radio show, and I guess Fish asked them something about whether they were discouraged or disappointed or whatever it was. And Woodson kind of pushed back on that and said, what are you talking about? We got a long way to go. It's like what he's talking about is what you're just mentioning. You missed your opportunity to win the non-conference games that matter. So now you're going to have to probably win 12 games in the Big Ten to get some quality. I mean, 10-10 is not going to get it done. 11-9 is going to be borderline, and 12-8 is probably what you're going to have to do. You've eliminated your margin of error, not only by losing those 2 games, but losing them the way you did. You can't keep getting blown out and not think that that's not going to hurt the perception of your team by the NCAA tournament selection committee.
Exactly. And they're already in the position that we know what last year happened. We know what happened last year when they did not have those quality wins. Not only that, they didn't have very many of these wins like they got last night over Sam Houston. They're not as bad there, but this is not going to help them a ton. Really, beating Sam Houston by 26 or whatever it was. Yeah, that's nice. But you're going to have to do some damage in the Big Ten, and that does not mean winning your home games and losing all the road games.
Right. I know when the net came out Monday morning, what were they, 71st? I haven't checked.
74th, I believe.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they updated every day, so they probably have gone up. I know they went up 7 or 8 spots in Pomeroy yesterday. In fact, they're ahead of Louisville, believe it or not. But not – yeah, it's not the kind of And we've talked. I mean, everybody knows what the situation is, and everybody knows what the temperature of the fan base is. It's a lot of people. I saw pictures of the crowd last night. It didn't look very impressive.
No, it was a pretty chilly night in Bloomington on a weeknight, and so there are
And not a
fans.
kind of nobody's going to want to come out and watch Sam Houston State.
Exactly. Not on when it's cold, when it's what was a 7:30 game, so it's not a late game, but still there are fans in Indianapolis. That's a late night for a weeknight when it's freezing cold. They're not going to do it. I mean,
not after what they saw last week.
No. Now that win helps, but they're going to have to do. I think they need to go 2-0 in Big Ten play for these first two games. I think they have to go 2-0. Nebraska is not one of the teams that we're talking about that you're going to have to watch out for. And I'm not saying that they're not capable of winning. I'm just saying they're not one of the teams that we're talking about. So you have to beat all of those teams. You cannot lose to those I don't know what the word to use for the group of potential guys at the top, but
right.
You have to beat everyone else.
I mean, Nebraska beat them 3 times last year, so until Indiana beats them, I'd say Nebraska is going to be favored. Right? They beat them by double figures 3 times last year, I think. I think they won all 3 games rather easily.
And the thing for Indiana right now is, and Mike Woodson said this a few games back, someone asked him, well, what's your identity? Don't know yet. Still looking. Well, that bothers me. Because if you don't know what your identity, you should know what it's supposed to be, because you know what your personnel is. You know how to use that personnel best if you're using it by the personnel or if you're trying to fit personnel into a system. That's where a problem arises, when you try to force fit square pegs into round holes. And I think that we've seen too much of that, just trying to force fit players into a system that doesn't work. Last night, accidentally, they go off script, and look what the hell happened. Luke Goode looked like an All-American shooting the 3-point ball last night, and he looked like Caitlin Clark on one. He stepped across, barely across half court, boom, just lets it go, smooth as can be, drains it. He just looked good. He felt good. He was in a rhythm. And then what happened? He gets taken out. And I'm like, why the hell are you taking him out? I would ride that sucker until tongue was hanging out. They're kids. They can take it. What the hell? Why? I don't understand why this belief is that these guys cannot play 38 minutes a game. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that from what I read and what I saw, it looked like a different kind of team with a more mobile lineup, more perimeter play, ball moved faster. They played faster, scored 97 points, didn't they? Then they scored 97. Yeah, and they didn't take an extraordinary amount of threes, but they took a decent number and they made a high percentage. I mean, they do have a better shooting team this year. The problem is that, they still treat the 3-point shot like it's a bit of a novelty. It's not a
part of the offense. It's not
like
a first look.
Third or fourth option. The first thing is to feed the post. The second thing is to drive the ball. And the third thing is to shoot a 3.
Well, if you take away Luke Goode's night of going off the bench, of going 5 for 7, the rest of the team was 2 for 9, I think, or 8, whatever they were. The rest of the team only hit 2 shots. So, if he doesn't come off the bench and have that game, what does that game look like?
Yeah. We'll see if he can do it against Miami. Miami they beat Air Force the other night. They have a kid actually from Carmel who played at Bellarmine for 2 years, who transferred in there, who had 42 points the other night against Air Force, Pete Suter. He'll be jacked up to play against Indiana.
I'm sure he will. And how about Langdon Hatton, transfer from Bellarmine? He's been playing almost every game. Not a lot, but he gets in. He seems to deliver quality minutes when he's in there. He plays hard. Last night he scored 2 points on his only shot, had a rebound, and he managed 4 fouls, but he played 17 minutes. That's a lot of minutes when you have Ballo and Renew. Why the hell? And I'm not anything against Langdon Hatton, but why the hell is he playing 17 minutes when you have Ballo and Renew? And Ballo played 19 minutes, so they're almost equal. I know I've got a pretty good idea what Ballo is being paid, and I have a pretty good idea what Hatton is not being paid. So that's a huge disparity for the same production, the same minutes.
I hear you. I mean, I saw Hatton in the Bahamas. I think he got to the free throw line like 3 times in like about a 5-minute stretch. I mean, like 3 out of 6 or 4 out of 6, whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, he's a decent backup. I mean, there'll be some games where he'll help him out. There'll be some games when you won't be able to play him because he didn't have the right skill set to go against quick mobile centers. But he's a decent backup. He was a reasonably good pickup. But you're right. I mean, he should be a 8 to 10 minute guy at the most.
We've got lots more coming up. RickBozich from WDRB.com is with us. The newest college football playoff, the penultimate college football playoff poll is out. I think that there are some things that are kind of set. We can usually expect change, Rick, but it looks like some teams may change, but I don't think a lot of the slots are going to change. RickBozich, right. WDRB.com is with us. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Hope you're keeping warm. RickBozich from WDRB.com is with us, and Rick has his grades out for college football, and Indiana gets an A+ from RickBozich.
It's the first one I've ever given in any sport.
I was getting ready to ask, how hard is it to get an A+? Because there's always something that can usually knock that down. But man, Kurt Cignetti named Big Ten Coach of the Year by the media and the coaches, and I expect him to be named Coach of the Year nationally. You just can't do what he did where he did it and it not be the best turnaround, the best job of the season. And so congratulations to him for that. And I'm sure that got him another bonus. Gee whiz, what did that just make him? $250,000.
Probably.
Pocket change, baby, pocket change then But Indiana looking to go in. For those that have worried, and there have been many, Rick, that kept thinking, oh, we're going to get screwed. I'm like, Indiana's in. There, of all the things that might change, Indiana's not one of them. For one, because they're in the Big Ten. 2, they're deserving. And 3, they're just not going to do that to either the Big Ten or the SEC. The SEC took care of themselves. They don't. The hell, they're getting Alabama in. What the hell are they going to complain about? So, there's no fear. The only question now is who they will play. Right now, slotted to play Georgia, but that's if they lose to Texas at the SEC championship. Rick, my thought is if Indiana plays the loser of that game, I don't think that they move anybody to up or down. I think that they just would swap Texas for Georgia because they already have Penn State at number 5. Okay, if they lose, they're not moving. They're not going to move them below Notre Dame, who does not even play in a conference championship, I don't think. So I don't think that those are going to change. The only possible changes would be is if Clemson wins the ACC championship because they're not currently in the college football playoffs, and that would give them not only a berth in it, but a bye. What happens with SMU, who is up there pretty highly? I can't see them kicking them all the way out. And that's probably what Alabama has the biggest fear of is SMU losing.
Right. So you're saying that Clemson would be probably what, 3? Or would
they
Boise
would have
State
to be? they would be up there. Yeah.
Boise
Four at
State
worst. They'd be
I don't
four.
know. Boise State could be 3. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Alabama, I guess, would be the team that would suffer. Ooh. Yeah, I expect Indiana to be playing at Georgia or at Texas, either one. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, they're both difficult places to play, and Georgia's closer than Texas, obviously, but once you get in the playoffs, that you're going to play a good team right off the bat anyway. So just use the extra time and get healthy and get ready to go.
And having talked about repeatedly saying that the issue for the Ohio State game for his Indiana team was the noise, which that's going to be the same if you go to Texas or if you go to Georgia. But having played at Ohio State this year, that was the first time that they were in a crowd like that, home or away. Michigan was able to go in and beat Ohio State, but they're used to 111,000 people at their home games. So that noise is nothing to them. And we'll see if Indiana can do that. But man, Indiana, between the hedges. How about that thought? Indiana and Georgia. Just that's it still does. It's hard for it to sink in, Rick, but it's real. And can you imagine they would have to have life support, medical personnel on standby for Paul Feinbaum if Indiana was able to go in to Athens and win that game. He would literally have an on-air heart attack without question, because he is Mr. SEC and one of those that thinks that the SEC just stands above all others. Man, I don't want to root against teams or for teams, but boy, I would have to tell you, I would love to see an Indiana go in and beat a Georgia SEC team.
Georgia's got a lot of talent. They probably have as much talent as anybody other than Ohio State in the country. But they've had a very uneven season. I mean, they've only lost 2, and they should have lost that game to Georgia Tech last Friday night. Georgia Tech got some really tough calls from the officials. They end up losing in 8 overtimes, and Georgia Tech came into Lexington and only beat Kentucky 13-12. So it's not one of the Kirby Smart's great teams. Now, they got a lot of players, and they can obviously play great and win, but this wouldn't be a bad year to play Georgia.
No, I don't think so.
And I haven't seen any word, like when you play in one of these road games, do you get more tickets than you normally would for an away game, or does the host team get to treat it like a regular home game and only give the visitor like 3,000 or 4,000 tickets?
That's a great question. I don't know. I do know that Indiana has already sent out information to their season ticket holders for the ability to reserve, but I think that may have been for a home game.
I'm sure it was.
I don't have that answer, and it's a good one to find out today. Today is signing day, no less, as well. A huge day on that side of things. And Indiana was already getting guys paperwork in as early as 7:10 a.m. this morning. Evan Parker from Carmel was the first name that came across, and that was followed by Jalen Bell from Georgia. So for all these programs, but man, and this is not to be banging on somebody, but these fax machines, if they're still, I doubt they're still using fax machines, Rick, now that
they're probably scanning it. And
I dated myself there a little bit, but man, what the hell did they do back in the day? Pony Express,
they put them in the mail.
FedEx Express, but now the emails come rolling across. But how quiet is it at Purdue today? And it's sad to, you have to feel for them a bit, because man, we've seen how hard it is, but when you get the right guy, I'm not saying that 10-0 is just it worked out greatly, but if Purdue gets the right guy, They have history. They have tradition. That's quarterback you, man. They put out the talent. They have the support. They are definitely going to have to upgrade their NIL packages, I think. And I don't know much at all about what their NIL situation is, but I can pretty well guess it can't be that great. But they've got to get the coaching hire right. That is with anything, it all starts and ends with getting the right guy. Indiana finally, after just years of not, they got it right. And anyone that thinks that Indiana's not committed, dude, they lock him down before the season's over. He's not leaving ever. They bump up the assistant's salary pool to the second highest in the country behind only Ohio State. They're committed to football. Purdue already has the facilities.
I think Purdue athletic director Mike Mabitsky made a terrible miscalculation that if you look at the history of Purdue football, nearly every time they've been really good, it's because they were an offensive-minded team. Whether it was Jim Young or then it was Joe Tiller, who was like the first guy to bring the sort of the spread offense to the Big Ten, and then Jeff Brom for sure. And he fell in love for whatever reason with Ryan Walters and trying to win with defense. And you're not going to have enough dudes at Purdue to win with defense. I mean, the really good defensive guys, there aren't as many of them, and they're going to go to Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and Notre Dame or whatever in the Midwestern footprint. And they were just totally not that good on defense and totally inept on offense. And I give him credit. I mean, he admitted his mistake in 2 years. Most athletic directors wouldn't be that willing to admit they made a mistake that quickly, but he didn't have any choice because in the new world, you've got to be competitive in football. And I'm sure the success that Cignetti in Indiana had made it even harder for him to hear from all of his boosters like, this is horrible. Look at Indiana. They're going to the playoff, and they didn't. Purdue didn't win a game other than the Indiana State game.
Hell, it's making it hard for Indiana basketball. You don't have to go outside of the school for Indiana football to have an effect. But it's true. I mean,
it is true.
Football is the hardest. Football is the hardest, always has been. And even in this era, it's still hard to turn around. What Cignetti did is amazing. To go from 1-8 to 8-1 in one of the two best conferences in the country. We've seen, I don't care that people can talk about their schedule, man, how easy is it to stub your toe? Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, both beat Alabama. So it can happen if you're not on top of your game. And so, Indiana beat Michigan. Michigan beat Ohio State. I don't want to hear about their schedule. That's a team. Indiana's a team that routinely played one of the top schedules in the country until they did away with the divisions, and that will return. It's not always going to be that way. But yeah, Purdue has to stay. They've got the facilities. They're set up. They're ready to go. Their practice facilities are amazing.
Their football administration building is much better than Indiana. It's not even close. And their indoor facility and all that stuff. Much better. It's new. It's only 4 or 5 years old. It's nice. The problem they have at Purdue, I mean, they have the same problem Indiana has in many ways. There's a lot of good players in the state and in the Midwest. They'll go, if they're really good, they go to Ohio State or they go to Michigan or they go to Notre Dame or they go somewhere else. You have a hard time keeping the in-state kids at home. And now this year, I think they had a few decent recruits, but they all started decommitting in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I heard last night that Louisville's hoping to pick up a Purdue decommit today.
Wouldn't be surprising, man. What's up next for you?
Oh, Duke comes in here to play Louisville this weekend, so that'll be the Cooper Flag show. So we'll see. Louisville's, I'm sure the Louisville's now down 3 players. And the kid, Cason Pryor, the big kid with the colorful hair, he's out for the year. He tore his ACL in the championship game against Oklahoma, so they were without him last night. So they're going to have some adjustments to do to move forward. And Kentucky actually has a good game this weekend too. They're playing Gonzaga in Seattle though on Saturday night. So those will be the games I'll be watching, and
We'll be
watching the
looking
Big
forward.
Ten championship game to see if. I don't think Penn State can beat Oregon. Penn State's got a
I don't
terrible
either.
record in big games. They don't ever come through in big games.
They don't have the offense.
Nope.
They don't have the offense. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Thank you, sir. As always
right.
Look forward to it.
All right. Have a great week, Jim.
Thank you, sir. You as well. Rick Bozich joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio. If you're looking for a great gift for the Indiana sports fan in your life, just go to isbradio.itemorder.com and you'll find plenty of options, including sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, pullovers, caps, and much more, including our Welcome to the SIG 10 line that benefits the local Boys and Girls Club. That's isbradio.itemorder.com. isbradio.itemorder.com.